could argue that the world is under serious threats from the environment, but environmentalists would counter that argument with the fact that the environment is simply responding to the various abuses constantly heaped upon it by man. Whichever one would be right, the major concern here is that the world may be close to extinction unless immediate actions are taken. Welcome to Green Angle, the show that explores the environment we live in, ecological problems we face while profiling sustainable solution. I am Ugochi Olibu, and on this episode of the program, we'll discuss the issue of flooding. In recent years, extreme weather has wreaked havoc on lives and properties globally. Flooding, the most common of all environmental hazards, is triggered by torrential rains and has killed dozens of people across the globe, while thousands of others have been victims of landslides. A recent report from the United Nations shows that in the last 20 years, 157,000 people have died as a result of floods, and between 1995 and 2015, floods affected 2.3 billion people. The report also estimates that 4 billion people have been injured, left homeless, or in need of emergency assistance as a result of weather-related disasters in the last 20 years across the globe. The major casualty of flooding is agricultural land. Periodic flooding of agricultural land has resulted in loss of production, food shortage, and rural undernutrition in Asia and Africa. At the start of 2015, Malawi, a landlocked country in southeastern Africa, witnessed its worst floods in history and experienced its worst food shortage in a decade. Nigeria has also its ugly share of this natural disaster. When one considers the damaging effects of this phenomenon, it is extremely surprising to know or even admit that this disaster is in most cases not imposed on man by nature, but by man himself. Joseph Adoye, who lives in the suburb of Isheri-Magodo, tells us the adverse effects of flooding in his community and how it has affected their lives.
This area gives us many challenges, but we are thankful to God because this gutter used to be very tiny. But due to heavy rainfall, it has expanded. You can see it's overtaking the road. That's what affected the main road. The rainwater can carry a human being. One can't cross to the other side when it rains.
Now this is behind me, the road that leads to a highbrow part of Lagos is called Magodo Phase 2. This is the Shangisha Road in Lagos, Nigeria. And surprisingly, this road is on the verge of collapse. If you look, there are vehicles up there, and this is what is actually holding up that road. That's a truck going by there, which is very dangerous. This is caused by massive flooding that happens here whenever it rains. It gets so flooded that it's almost washing away the road here. So there's massive construction going on here to be able to contain this and channel the flood waters to somewhere that might be better for those living around here and to save this road. You're watching Green Angle, and we're still discussing the issue of flooding. With me right now is Mr. Michael Nweke to shed more light on this. Thanks for joining us. So let's begin now with how serious is the issue of flooding?
Well, if you are aware of global trends, you will see that flooding is a really catastrophic issue. If you look around all continents right now, in America, in China, it's everywhere. Flooding is a very major natural disaster. And it is something that the world is going to have to live with for a long time, except we begin to take very, very strong necessary measures to make sure that we deal with global warming.
And when you talk about the gravity of the issue of flooding, does it mean the world has to take it very seriously?
Yes, I mean, one of the major, one of the strongest reason for flooding is global warming. I mean, if temperature goes up another 2 degrees, it's going to be very catastrophic. You know, you have what you call the ASLR, accelerated sea level rise. Take, for example, let me bring it down to Nigeria. If the delta goes up another 0.5 meters, you're going to have about 35% of arable land or livelihood lost to flooding. If it goes up 1 meter, I don't want to even begin to imagine.
Now, really, how big is the challenges that come with flooding? You talked about the Delta region. How are the livelihoods of people affected by flooding?
Wow. Livelihood. Let me key in with that word. When you say livelihood, it encompasses the whole wheel of life. Businesses, markets, agriculture, aquaculture. As I speak with you, 2012 flooding disaster in Nigeria damaged, speaking economically now, about 1.45 trillion naira of our livelihood. It affected farmlands, arable lands, businesses, homes, lives, properties were destroyed. And that was the value. So it's a very serious issue, very, very serious issue.
I mean, we call it natural disaster, but we also understand that there's a human element to all of this, human causes to all this. Can you help us understand how huge the impact of human activities could impact or could cause flooding?
Okay, flooding has a natural side and has man-made. For the natural, what can cause flooding? Primarily, I go back to the word again, it's global warming. Global warming gives rise to, like I said, sea levels. You know, so you can have a river behind your house just rising, you know, volume, and then you wake up one morning and your whole house is flooded. Now, rainfall, torrential rainfall, very heavy rainfall is a major natural cause of flooding. I would use Lagos as an example. If you remember, back again in 2012, around Oroshoki, you'd have heard stories. People woke up in the middle of the night and they were floating on their mattresses, houses were submerged, cars disappeared, vehicles were thrown into the lagoon. So you have that for natural causes. Most times heavy rainfalls, torrential rainfalls. Then for man-made, man-made can stem from things like even dam spills. You know, when you build this infrastructure, sometimes things go wrong within the system, and for some reason the outlets that are supposed to shield the water from breaking out, if anything goes wrong, that can cause a major disaster.
The Lekki Ajah area, we understand how badly planned they are, and with more people moving to that axis and the issue of flooding becoming very intense in those areas, help us understand what should be done about it when it comes to urban planning.
Yes. Okay. I'm a geography major. I mean, I read geography and regional planning from University of Lagos. One thing I always say for urban planners, the most important thing is not just to. It doesn't really start with designing a city. It starts with a healthy projection. I particularly believe that the planners for Lagos State did not really envisage that there would be a major rural-urban drift. Everybody's in Lagos. Lagos is a heavy melting pot. Everybody's here, and people move here in droves per day. So, the Lekki axis, taking the example you just gave, is one of the fastest growing cities in Africa, if not even the fastest. And what has happened is, it's unfortunate, there is no proper drainage. As a child, I grew up, I lived on the island all my life. So I saw Morocco pull down, and we saw Victoria Island Annex, and then Lekki, and then the places you have now today, Buefa. We saw those places come up from being complete bushes. And I think at that time, the only existing infrastructure at that time was even Chevron. But today, that is a city with over 4 or 5 million people. So, you don't have a proper drainage system. It's a recipe for disaster. We don't have.
I know you're not a scientist, but can you help us understand how much the intensity of rainfall can cause flooding around the world? We know climate change is an issue. Climate change has increased the intensity of rainfall, and the amount of rainfall that falls probably on a particular day or at a particular time. Help us understand how this causes flooding.
Let me take it from this point, this viewpoint. Every city should be built with call it a regional or jurisdictional rain gauge. It helps for taking healthy analysis of how much rain, rainfall is received in every season, such that you can measure the after effects of rainfall in a season and see what it does to your city. I'm not sure that there's any particular amount of rain that you would say is determinant to how much damage would happen. Because I'll tell you what, if a city is properly planned, you have cities in Europe where no matter the amount of rain, there is a very, very efficient system. That's what you call storm water management. You have houses, you have a system where every single home is designed to collect rainwater. Drainages are working properly in the city. So, a very small amount of rainfall can do serious harm to a city if the city is not properly planned. So it goes back to planning. You won't say, okay, it's when you have this amount of rainfall. If you have a certain amount of rainfall, but the city is properly planned, it works effectively. So you won't have any issues. But you can have a little amount of rainfall. If you don't have good planning, it'll destroy things.
So are you saying that climate change isn't a huge problem if a city is properly planned?
Okay, as it concerns flooding, climate change is a problem. Climate change is a general issue. It touches every aspect of life. What causes climate change? Greenhouse gases. So it's inevitable if we keep our energy culture the way it is, regardless of whether your city is very well planned, you have issues that come with climate change. I mean, everybody has to now go green. Everybody has to change the way they view energy consumption. We have to invest seriously in low carbon infrastructure. So yes, you're right. Even if your city was heavily planned, if you have a poor energy culture, it would affect you some way or the other. There's global action. Everybody has to go green. The developed world have, I wouldn't say they have destroyed the ozone layer, no. But they have realized that even if they go green and go completely green, if we start getting heavily industrialized and we remain on greenhouse gases, we are going to be still destroying the climate.
Thank you so much for your time, Michael Nweke, and thank you for all your insights on the issue of flooding across the world. You're still watching Green Angle. Now, in terms of lives lost and property damaged, floods are just behind tornadoes at the top natural disaster. So while we understand the issues of flood and the threats they pose to our existence on Earth, here are a few things more we need to know. Floods occur because of heavy rains, a river overflowing, a dam or levee breaking, a tsunami, or melting snow. Communities particularly at risk are those located in low-lying areas near water or downstream from a dam. If there is any possibility of a flash flood, move immediately to higher ground. Floods occur even in the desert. Rapidly moving water can be dangerous. It is so powerful it can carry a car, house, tree, or person. 2 feet of water can float a large vehicle, even a bus. According to Environmental Protection Agency, attempting to drive through flood water is the leading cause of flood-related injury and death. 66% of flood deaths occur in vehicles, and most happen when drivers make the fatal mistake of trying to navigate through flood waters. Just 6 inches of rapidly moving flood water has the strength to knock a person down. With the tale of death and property loss as a result of improper management of flood waters in different parts of the world, one can only hope the world wakes up to the challenge and do the needful in salvaging this disaster to protect those living in flood-prone areas and to save Mother Nature. For comments and suggestions, please use the addresses on your screen. Thanks for watching. I am Ugochi Oluibo. Remain green.